Good morning, people. It is absolutely wonderful to be here. And, to look at you from this side, it is so encouraging because we've got young people here, people who are newly qualified, and we've got Peter Kuhn. So we've got the whole spectrum here. And what's so beautiful, I was so pleased to see Peter here. He has seen it all. He has been through all of this, and still he attends these things. He reinvents himself every time. Peter, good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk about communications in the broadest sense of the word. This building, you must know it, Hector Peterson Museum. It communicates straightforward, Hector Peterson Museum on a notice board. But it also has more subtle messages. It says, listen, I signal the beginning of the end of apartheid. That's in political terms. In physical terms, it says, look at my shape and form and mass and scale. Don't crowd me. I need space to justify my existence as a building. And if you look at the material, it communicates that, listen, I belong here. I belong on this site. So what I'm going to talk about is that, scroll here, Muneen. Oh, there it is. Communication in the absolutely the broadest sense, and not just verbal and in written terms. When Peter and I, he's slightly before me, started studying, an architect got 6%, finish and class, non-negotiable. You will never heard an architect saying, listen, I'm waiting for fees to be paid or anything like that. It was non-negotiable. And architects had a reasonable standing at that stage. And even prior to that, in Finland, I say when Alvar Aalto came into the room, everybody stood up. Now, can you imagine that happening today? And I think part of it, the problem is that we became inclusive, we've drawn into ourselves, and our ability to communicate, to signal our presence, has deteriorated. Finish and clear. And, I was I never suspected anything. But in the beginning, in the 90s to 2000, when the professional councils were being formed, we had the emerging profession of project managers. And we thought, oh goodness, okay, so they're going we're going to delegate project administration, contract supervision to them. The next thing we heard is they're getting 10% and we get our orders from them. But you know how it happened? Slowly and very deliberately. The people who represented the project managers, Charles Israelite and Freddie Fisker, they came to meetings super professional, super eloquent, well prepared, punctual, and we never had a chance. We never saw it coming. So at one stage, we were the undisputed leaders of a building project. Now, not anymore. So that's where I want to begin, is with leadership. And also, if you look at the activities of an architect, this was done in 1981. And even at that stage, drawing and designing as such was a subservient component of what we do in an office. So I want to begin with leadership and the difference between leadership and managing. Managing, as I say, is doing the things right, and leadership is doing the right thing. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Control, efficiency, rules, that's management. Leadership is direction, purpose, values. So if you are that, and I know many people like that, you are obsessed with your Excel spreadsheet, tasks, hours, outputs, you are a manager. If you can inspire people to lead and to give them time to do Ironman, say, listen, just work it in later, you inspire people, that is leadership. And to give direction and purpose to the people who work for you. And the biggest rule of leadership is don't be a bully. You know, if you have an office and you have people working for you, don't intimidate those people, because you know they are subservient. They are depend on you for an income and for their futures. So rather be a nice, compassionate, fair person. Don't be a bully. There was a time when manliness was associated with being a breaker. Long time no more. Long time no more. Develop a clear vision and mission. That's leadership. You know, when I met Henk Bogertman in the early 80s, he said, my vision is to build an architectural firm that will be one of the giants in retail design. He did it. He did it because he focused all the time. In this whole period, what's it, nearly 40 years now, Henk Bogertman never lost his sense of purpose. And he pulled other people with him. Select the right people to work for you, stimulate effort and results, set an example, communicate with your people, reward fairly, and keep promises. You know, I hear of people who, the salaries are measly, but the principals drive these expensive cars and they go overseas and so on. That's not good leadership. You've got to be fair. This is normal stuff. Then time management. Why did we lose our standing? Partly because of our lack of punctuality. How many times do you see architects, even when they chair the meetings, come in late, smiling, no remorse, saying, I got stuck in traffic. How unprofessional can you get? Because the project manager was waiting for you half an hour before the time, fully prepared. And we see it all the time. Punctuality. Then this long working day that starts at university. My goodness, where did that come from? You ask your friends who are heart surgeons and goodness what kind of jobs they have. Wealthy, big incomes, big consultancies. How long did you study each day at university? And I tell you, we spend 4 times as much work, well, at the university in the studio, and we earn a quarter of what they do. You know, and at one stage, I was with the Department of Architecture at TUT, and the whole place is under camera surveillance for security and so on. And the head of the department and myself played back scenes from the previous nights. Now, apart from other mischievous stuff, we noticed that what do the students do? They pitch at 8, they chat and drink wine until 9, they race with the chairs, with the wheels on. At 10 o'clock they start working, at 2 o'clock they're tired, and they go to bed. So this thing of working through the night is absolute nonsense, because we found that the students only work about 4 hours anyway. So if you pitch you go to the gym in the morning for students, go to the gym, pitch at university at 8 or 9, by 12 o'clock you've done as much as they have. So the long working day, there's always tonight, is a myth. Stop it, you've got a life. Work is enjoyable. You know, if you don't like architecture, go do something else. But life is so short, you know, and you only realize it when you come to my age. And Peter I say to my wife, when she says, why are you overdoing things? And I say, Minda. You know, you've got to pack things in now. Life is too short to go to work feeling miserable about what you have to do. Then you can do anything else. Creative approach to time pressure, be clever, and you know, this thing of working smarter rather than harder is a fact. Okay, self-management. What is that? Sharp, remain alert. How do you do that? Positive habits. Punctuality. If you tend to be late always, you've got a bad habit. And people, you get known for it. You don't realize it, but it's a bad habit. And what does it signal? What does it communicate? It communicates that I don't care about your time. My time is more important. You were punctual, stuff that doesn't matter. You had to wait for me, it doesn't matter. Maintain a high energy level. How can you be a leader of a building team or a leader anywhere if you look lethargic and tired and no zest for life? Constantly develop knowledge and experience. There's Peter King. He's seen this hundreds of times. And even so, he attended all these courses. Use a diary. You know, whether it's an electronic one or a written one. I've been to arbitration cases with my diary where I had the only evidence of what happened on that day 3 years ago. You lose the stuff in electronic self-discipline and be focused. You know, get to know where you're going, and read Covey. Getting organized. You know what's important and urgent. Tires that must be replaced is urgent. Important is not to be late for your meeting with a client. You can't tell him, listen, I had to wait for tires to be replaced. Setting priorities, 20% effort produce 80% results. Monine says she's at work, we know she is, at 6 o'clock in the morning. That means by 8 o'clock, she has done all the important work and hopefully didn't have to answer any telephones. Then she's done all the important stuff. Then she can start to pay attention to other things. Scheduling appointments, schedule effectively and realistically. That sounds so naive. But you know, how often do you see people who have a meeting at 10 o'clock in Pretoria and 11:30 in Joburg? You know, what are the chances? And then, of course, perfectionism, you must realize it by now. You've got to stop sometime. And then you tell yourself, listen, with my talent and my time and the income I'm going to derive from this is now it. I'm stopping right here. And that goes especially with designs. Overcommitment, first things first. One thing Monine said this morning, I didn't pick it up previously, is she said she does the things she likes least. So then it's done. Because to postpone the things you don't like to do, then they just become bigger and bigger and bigger and more ominous. Also learn to say no. Files and records, that means electronic stuff, is be orderly where you file your stuff so that you don't waste time looking for it. And you know, one thing that you can afford to spend money on is a nice workspace, nice work equipment. And then watch out. The 21st century is moving very, very fast. You've got to make time for yourself to think. And you know, all the evidence shows that maybe to think in nature and not to hear buses and planes and ambulances. To think in nature is maybe a good idea if you want to sort out your direction in life. Habits of effective people, be proactive, take responsibility. Know where you're going. First things first. Like I said, don't try to be a bully. If you negotiate with people, try to work in such a way that everybody wins. Listen. How many times do you talk to people, and when you talk to them, you can see in their eyes, they're thinking of what they're going to have to say just now. They're not listening to you. Work with other people, adopt the principles of balanced self-renewal. Again, like Peter, self-renewal, new hip, new knee, new course, and he's fit. And you know, this sounds like American propaganda stuff, but this Covey is really very good. And my dean, who's a serious, clever overachiever, says, you know, actually one should read Covey once a year. Just to refresh yourself on what are important principles in your life. Let's talk about basic verbal presentations. Communicate with a purpose. You must, you must radiate that you want to be there. Be lively, interested, and enthusiastic, that's obvious. Be earnest, don't show off, because now you've got the mic. So just be genuine and know your stuff. And have a sense of responsibility. You can't, if your time slot is whatever, an hour and a half, stick to that. Don't bore the audience. Have a sense of leadership. Remember, stand tall, make eye contact. It's difficult to make eye contact with a big group. So just do as I say, don't do as I do. Because you find a sympathetic face or two, and especially if it's a controversial topic, you tend to focus on that person because that's where you get sympathy. And if somebody sits there nodding his head, oh goodness, things are going wrong here. Keep your head. Beware of overconfidence and over-enthusiasm. Keep your head. Be yourself. Develop your own style. We can't perform like Trevor Noah can. So just be yourself. Know yourself. Be realistic about your speaking abilities. Last week I got invited to a radio debate on African urbanism. And I just decided that I'm not eloquent enough for that, and I'm not quick enough for that. So I said, no, thank you. I feel flattered, but I'm out of that. Presentations, quirky ways of talking. Apologetic opening. These people, I got off the plane from Cape Town this morning and I'm not really prepared. You can't start a presentation like that. Fidgeting, playing with whatever. Lack of audience contact. Well, it's not always easy. Jargon, that is dangerous, especially for architecture, because we now feel threatened, so we want to mystify the profession. So we don't say space anymore, we say spatiality. We don't say material anymore, we say materiality. It's the same thing, we just want to sound more clever than we are. Meaningless phrases. This is just a little plan of the complex, I hear that all the time. You put a lot of effort in that, give it justice. Lack of confidence, whether you're either too timid or too aggressive. The two ends are not acceptable. Bad posture. Hands in the pockets. It sounds medieval, but this is a defense mechanism. And I started, when I said hello, I had my hands in my pockets. Defense mechanism. Okay, there are many books on how to do it right. I believe in theory. I like reading about stuff like that. PowerPoints, that's where things go wrong, because you ask the students in your office to do the PowerPoint. They understand this thing. And you go to the client and you've got a whole screen full of words. That is not how you do PowerPoint. You use keywords and talk to that. You fill your sentences with great circumspection. If you quote maybe, but even so, if you have a word, site development, just talk about the development of the site. Don't have paragraphs. You cannot have a paragraph on a PowerPoint. Forget it. Never read your slides. Talk freely. If you do presentations, of course, you must know what you're talking about. And the slides are actually only for support. Like somebody said, these are like coat hangers. They just help you. They do what the notes did in the old days. And focus on illustrations, not the text. And then, my goodness, I want to talk about the reports and letters. Report, a written document to communicate the ideas, and whether you write a letter or a full-blown report for which you get paid a lot of money, the basic structure remains the same. You've got a general introductory, general part, preliminaries, your introduction, the body, which you don't call the body, and then an ending. And there are many types of reports. And, I don't want to sound judgmental, but the reports that I see coming from the architectural fraternity are not good. Finish and clear. I'm writing an article on politics and architecture. That's what they pay me to do, for that sort of thing. So I got hold of a lot of reports for the Pan African Parliament competition. Perhaps one of the most important architectural competitions ever held in this country. And I couldn't believe how childish the English in some of those documents were. Like I said, one of the most important projects ever, and not good. The language and the typography that was not good. We've got to brush up on that. And remember, you don't just sell yourself by your drawings. The clients don't even understand the drawings, but they can read what you see. So your fee proposal, which is becoming more common, must be good. Feasibility and viability studies, location site analysis, environmental assessments, all of those. You get paid for that. So these reports must be seriously professional. Appraisal definition, you've got to give the client a report like that. During the course of the work, if you're the principal agent, you do minutes, you do progress reports, and you've got debriefing. And then, things like investigations are quite lucrative. You get forensic auditing, expert witness reports, and you write architectural guidelines. And with these written documents, you must also communicate that you're a professional and that you know what it's all about. We write in English, all of it. And what we must do is, rule number one is simplicity. Keep it simple. And there's an expression, would I say that? Don't write things that you're not prepared to say in company. If you say, listen, the instructions are vague, don't write the instructions are nebulous or anything. Use the easier word in all instances. Difficult words impress nobody. And then many people are scared of writing. Just get on with it. You can ask people to help you. And then, of course, I think a golden rule is professional editing. If you write, especially if you, not only, but especially if you write in your second or third language, is get somebody who's on standby to quickly check your letters and so on. Because even a letter, they charge you 250, but at least your grammar and stuff like that will be in order, and you will make a good impression. When you do booklets, don't just staple. Make it attractive. And then when you write a report, remember there's a format. You don't just start and then waffle on. A historical thing, for example, is somebody wants to develop a resort, there's a farm, there are a couple of old buildings, and you knew there is some sort of historical background. Now you've got to write a report before the brief is written. Then you've got a structure to use. If somebody says, listen, we've got this brand new office building, but the roof is leaking, then again, there's another structure which gives logic to the unfolding of your findings. Information sources everywhere, but beware of internet, and that is why apart from recipes and stuff like that, go to Google Scholar. There you get some really seriously authoritative information on the things that you're interested in. General aspects, this is fine. Listen, we don't add list of figures and list of tables anymore, but you must have a table of contents so that the reader can decide what to read, what to select. And then what's a nice touch is an abstract synopsis in the beginning. Introduction, and nowadays we tend to add right in the beginning, what is the value of this document? Who's going to benefit from it? The body of the report, I'm not going to go into that, but remember, if you do research for somebody, remember that just a collection of data is not research. You've got to interpret it based on your own background. When you write, avoid trying to write the perfect sentence and the perfect paragraph every time. Just go for it, quick and messy, so that you have something to edit later on. Avoid personal opinions, motivate expert rambling discussions, consolidate data into graphics. You all know that. The picture paints 1,000 words. and graphic material is not decoration. And as architects, we are fond of our graphics, but we must use it clever and with great circumspection. Now, this is something I did quite a couple of years ago. And if you think I've got income there, size of the houses, locality, the cost of the houses, income of the family, and if you had to describe this in a narrative, my goodness, how many pages would that have taken? But this is so valuable if you do this sort of investigation for a client, because what it says was totally surprising. It told us that the people with the highest incomes, in this instance, bought some of the smallest homes. So things are not always as obvious as we think they are. Writing a paragraph, many people think you just write, and if it looks long enough, you cut it and you start a new paragraph. That's not true. There is a bit of logic and structure in it. Conciseness is critical. I told you, get to the point. Simplicity preferred to complexity, and write in the past tense. Plan the next session. If you have a big report to write, let's say for expert witness report, you're going to get good money for that. It's a project on its own. You don't do it in a day. It takes you a week or more. So when you finished writing tonight, don't just get up. Plan what you're going to do tomorrow and see that that your desk is clear, that all your reference material is nicely stacked out. Everything is ready. So next morning you come and you start work. You don't have to search for books and literature and whatever. Park downhill. Keep it nice and simple. Don't crowd it. And quotations, listen. That's what we did when we tried to be teacher's pet, nah? Many decades ago. We avoid quoting. It serves no purpose. Same with the ending. Don't be too abrupt. There's a structure to ending. And know the difference between an annexure and an appendix. No? Referencing your report, do it properly. And then I want my penultimate message is about letters, which are now emails. In the prehistoric days, they used smoke and drums. Then we got letters by post, and then we got emails with attached letters, and now an email is a letter. But I often get, and WhatsApp is also going to be legal one of these days. I get WhatsApps and SMSs which says greetings, and then a message, and then say cheerio. And I know this person doesn't mean it disrespectfully or nothing. This person is energetic, he's pleased with himself or herself, but I've got no idea who this message is from. So, the fact that we're in the 21st century with social media and all of that doesn't mean we mustn't apply the normal rules of respect and courtesy when we write. So a proper salutation. And a proper salutation is not sir. If you know who you write to, at least say dear sir or madame. But what kind of letter is that? Normally you would know who you're addressing, so say, dear Peter, or dear Mr. So-and-so. Show respect and show that you recognize this person. Non-negotiable. We don't talk about that. Same structures report. Beware of typos, because now, in the old days, we got a letter, you could think about it and reply 3 days later. Now you get an email, and 15 minutes later, the person said, listen, I sent you an email, you haven't responded yet. What's wrong? So the pace is too fast. So that is where typos, bad grammar, and bad language comes off. And then sign off correctly. Again, you've got to sign off. Cheers and adios and so on is fine for your brother and so on, but definitely not in the business world. So you've got to sign off. Beware of logos that are too big, and include your title and contact info, but keep it short. Don't make links to all sorts of crazy things like articles you wrote 50 years ago. And then beware of sign-offs that are a bit questionable, like thanks for your consideration. That sounds a bit pathetic. I trust you find this in order. This is the worst way you can sign it off. because the person who receives it say, yes, the author doesn't have much confidence in whatever he or she is writing. Yours truly is old-fashioned, but I mean, you can't get shot for being old-fashioned. Sincerely yours, same problem as above, but okay for business letters. And be well, not appropriate for business email. All the best, it's getting better. Best regards, that's fine. And regards or fine, kind regards. You can't go wrong there. Warm regards. If you really mean it, if somebody did you a favor, and you sound sincere, warm regards is actually, I think, a good way. And many thanks, also good. And then I want to conclude, and that is dress code. And, I tell this story many times. Once one of my colleagues was wearing old sandals and frayed out socks, frayed out old jeans, a t-shirt he got from the students, and a jacket that he got from his university days. And he said, how do you like my designer outfit? And I was totally shocked. I said, this isn't a designer outfit. You look like a bloody hobo. And, one has to be careful. And those days when you said you don't want to dress like a bank manager, those days are over, because the bank managers are not particularly formal in any case, but they dress neatly. So this is supposed to be light-hearted. You know who this is? Norman Foster. Norman Foster at one stage was the highest paid architect in the world. And I mean, the type of work that he still gets is phenomenal. And I've seen one photograph of him with a tie. He loves his polo, what do you call those? Polo neck shirts, yes. And his corduroy jackets. And he's a wealthy man. He drives around London with an Aston Martin and so on. And see, he's got a typology. He wears a certain type of clothes to all. He's an Englishman. Here you've got who? Yes. Renzo Piano is not Italian, but he doesn't dress like an Italian. He dressed like somebody from the Hampshires in the east coast of America. The Cheetos, check jacket and shirts, that's casual, but it looks smart, I think. And so is the code in his whole office. It's relaxed, it's laid back, and no Bart Simpson t-shirts and things like that. Everybody's just neatly dressed. And then we get to the black on black people. You know who this is? Rem Koolhaas, he's always in black, and he always looks half befoeterd. And this, of course, is the new rising star, and he took work away from Norman Foster, where Norman Foster's already started, and the client said, listen, we're very sorry, but we're going to give this work to Bjarke Ingels. And Bjarke Ingels, I don't think he owns a car. He goes around Copenhagen on his bicycle, and black on black. But he's got some fancy designer t-shirts, which I can see is, it's not from a running competition or anything like that. More black on black, the Dutch team of Winnie Maas, Van Rys and De Vries, and they always look like this. Winnie Maas, I don't know why, but he's a sort of rock star in the Netherlands. And then, of course, you all must know this man, Francis Carey, perhaps one of the most famous African architects, and with his signature jeans and shirt. And that is my point. With jeans and a nice shirt, you can go just about anywhere, because that's the way bank managers dress these days, in any case. And then, of course, the late Zaha Hadid had this flair for dress. With that outfit, if she comes into the room, everybody will know Zaha Hadid is there. Do you agree? I think that's good. Okay, so appearance counts. You don't have to overdress, just dress appropriately. And then Ludwig's got this book. You buy it at the airport or any exclusive books. it gives you the format for all sorts of agendas and meetings and reports and the documentation you will need to run a good office. And then, of course, books like The Business of Design, some of them are just pure propaganda, but there are good ones. And then I want to conclude with the need for positive habits, because architecture is a difficult job. And you know, I've heard of a story where the whole office came together on a Friday afternoon. It was payday, but there was no money in the bank. So they held hands and they prayed for a check to come in. And the check did arrive, but you know, those are desperate measures if you have to pay for your fees to come in. So architecture can be highly stressful, and especially nowadays that we are often in subservient positions on the team. It's highly competitive. It's not always fair. You can't get through to the right people. You know, then a positive habit is really necessary. And then it's necessary to stay healthy, fit, positive, get enough sleep. You know, all of these things to enjoy life and to enjoy life as an architect. Finding your purpose, bigger picture. And with that, I thank you for your attentiveness. Thanks very much.